The sterling ballroom shimmered beneath crystal chandeliers, every corner glowing with polished shoes, champagne flutes, and couture gowns. Conversations softened the moment Arya Sterling walked in, accompanied not by some high-profile figure, but by a man in a modest grey suit. No designer shine, no flashy watch. He looked like someone who accidentally wandered in from the street after finishing a cup of coffee. But when the groom turned toward his bride, ready to seal the moment with a kiss, he stopped mid-motion. His face drained of color, his gaze locked not on his bride, but on that unassuming man in grey. Every breath in the ballroom halted. No one knew that the real breaking point had occurred weeks before. Far from chandeliers and judgmental eyes, Jonas preferred quiet corners and anonymity. Brewpage as a small bookstore cafe tilde copyright squeezed between a dry cleaner and a bakery was his refuge. He came after dropping his daughter at school, blending into the smell of old books and fresh espresso. His open paperback was merely a prop. His mind wandered more than he read. One ordinary morning, she walked in, jeans, loose sweater, hair tied back. No hint of wealth or pretense. Zaya or Arya, as he would later know, ordered a plain black coffee and settled at the table opposite his. They didn't exchange a glance, and yet, something began, not with introductions or forced politeness, or just two strangers sharing quiet space. She returned the next week, same seat, same drink, same weary gaze, still no conversation, until the day her laptop died. With a sigh, she leaned back. After a long pause, her voice broke the silence. "Do you ever feel like the world is too loud?" Jonas didn't lift his eyes from the page. Every day, a faint smile touched her lips. That was the first truth either of them shared. Their quiet routine settled easily. Same days, same cafe tilde copyright, same corner. Sometimes they spoke about books or weather. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. It didn't matter. For Jonas, it felt like breathing after years of suffocation. For her, it was the only place she wasn't being pulled apart by expectations. But one morning she looked worse than before, exhausted, beaten down. She ordered double espresso and confessed, "My family thinks I don't live my own life, and anytime I try, they attach strings to it." Jonas set his book aside. "People like that don't stop until you cut the strings." She looked at him as if those were the words she'd waited years to hear. Weeks passed. She softened. He steadied. Their bond wasn't romancy, not yet, but it was real. Then suddenly, she stopped coming. Jonas pretended not to care, but the silence around him felt heavier. When she finally returned, she was transformed, polished, professional, and carrying an envelope. "My sister's wedding is soon," she said, "and I don't want to face my family alone. Will you come with me?" Jonas hesitated, thinking of his quiet life, his daughter, the world he'd deliberately abandoned. But he also thought of the woman who found peace across from him in a tiny cafe tilde copyright. Yes, preparations for the wedding came with subtle insults, a designer suit suggestions, forced politeness wrapped in expensive paper. He refused all of it. "I'll wear what I own," he said. "They'll judge you," she warned. "I know." "Then why still come?" He didn't dress it up. "Because you asked." The wedding day arrived. Jonas wore his grey suit and prepared himself for a world he had sworn never to return to, one full of polished wealth and hidden knives. Arya greeted him with a smile that tried to hide nerves. They entered arm in arm. Heads turned. Whispers followed. Judgment was instant and predictable. Yet Jonas kept walking. During the ceremony, everything appeared perfect until the groom turned toward his bride for the kiss, and froze. His stare cut straight through the crowd and struck Jonas like a spotlight. He stepped away from his bride, descended the platform, and approached Jonas with visible trembling. "Sir," he whispered. The entire ballroom jolted. "You saved my company. When everyone abandoned me, when I had nothing, you believed in me." Gasps scattered like sparks. "This man," the groom announced, "is Javelia, the invisible investor half the city has been searching for." The crowd erupted. Phones came out. Arya's mother suddenly transformed into the warmest hostess alive. Clarissa, the bride, stood frozen. Arya looked at Jonas as though seeing him for the first time. "Javelia broken bar you?" Jonas rose slowly. This wasn't supposed to happen, but the truth was now a wildfire consuming the room. Arya's voice trembled. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Not here," Jonas said quietly, but she pushed. Hurt, betrayed. I trusted you, she whispered. I told you my whole life, and you hid yours. Jonas tried to speak, but attention pressed down from every direction. Phones recording, people leaning in. The very world he ran from was closing around him again. You're right, he finally said. I should have told you. I just a broken bar didn't know how to tell you without everything turning into this. He motioned toward the crowd staring at them. Without becoming some kind of transaction. For a brief moment, something like understanding flickered across Aria's fascia, then it vanished. You didn't trust me. That's Noda. You didn't trust me, she repeated, her voice cracking. You thought I'd see you differently. You thought I'd want something from you. Jonas stayed silent, because she was right. That fear had lived in him for years. Aria stepped back, her tightening her features. I need air. She turned and walked away. Jonas watched helplessly as every gaze in the room shifted toward him. Clarissa shot him a blistering glare before hurrying after her sister. Aria's mother stood rooted in place, torn between comforting her daughter and chasing after the billionaire she had unknowingly underestimated. Marcus approached with slow, guilty steps. I'm sorry, I never meant for it to blow up like this. Jonas lifted a hand to stop him. It's not your fault. I only wanted them to know who you really are, Marcus whispered. Jonas met his eyes. Tired. They don't see who I am, they only see what I'm useful for, and that's not the same thing. He walked out of the ballroom. No one stopped him, but he felt every stare pressing into his back. He could feel the shift the instant they stopped seeing Jonas and started seeing J-Vale, a name he had spent years trying to outrun. Outside, the cold air hit him like a slap. He found a bench near the fountain and sat heavily, listening to the reception resume its polished laughter and music as if the truth hadn't just exploded in the center of the room. He checked his phone. No messages. He wasn't surprised. Aria was somewhere inside, trying to breathe beneath the weight of what she'd learned. He didn't blame her. He'd known this moment would eventually come. He just never expected it to feel like this. Footsteps approached. He looked up to see Aria's mother lowering herself onto the bench beside him, smoothing her dress with impeccable grace. Well, she said lightly, that was quite the scene. Jonas didn't respond. She tried again. I do want to apologize for how we treated you earlier. If we had known you'd have treated me differently, Jonas finished quietly. I know. Her tight smile faltered. You can't hold that against us. We just didn't realize it, and that's exactly the problem, Jonas said. He turned toward her. I'm the same man I was an hour ago. The only thing that changed is the price tag you've put on me. Her composure cracked, if only for a heartbeat. Jonas stood. Your daughter sent me designer suit suggestions because she thought I'd embarrass her. You looked at me like I didn't belong near your family, and now you're apologizing because you found out I'm wealthy. Explain to me how that's fair. She opened her mouth and closed it again. She had no explanation. Jonas walked back inside, intent on finding Aria before the distance between them hardened into something permanent. But when he spotted her near the bar with Clarissa, he hesitated. They were locked in an intense conversation. Aria flushed and upset, Clarissa gesturing sharply. He stepped closer. Clarissa saw him first and her expression turned to steel. I think you've done enough damage for one night. I need to talk to Aria, Jonas said. She doesn't want to talk to you, Clarissa shot back. Let her say that. Aria turned then. Her eyes were still wet, but her voice was controlled. Steady, too steady. She's right. I don't want to talk to you. Not right now. The words landed like a blow. You made me feel foolish, she whispered. I defended you. I told my family you were different, that you didn't care about money or power, and all along, you were exactly like them, just better at pretending you weren't. That's not true, isn't it? Her voice rose. You're richer than my entire family combined, one of the most influential investors in the country, and you let me complain about my life as if you couldn't possibly relate, as if you didn't understand what it's like to be the judged for what you have. I do understand, Jonas said. That's why I didn't tell you, because the moment people know the truth, it becomes the only thing they see. So you hid it. I didn't lie. I just a broken bar didn't say everything. Aria let out a humorless laugh. That's the same thing, Jonas, and you know it." Clarissa placed a hand on Aria's arm. "Let's go touch up your makeup. You shouldn't have to deal with him right now." But Aria didn't move. She just looked at him, hurt and disillusioned. "I thought you were safe," she whispered. "The one person in my life who wanted me, not my surname, not my family's money. Just me." "I do want you," Jonas insisted. "That's why I'm here." "No," Aria said softly. "You're here because I asked you to come, and you said yes because you felt sorry for me, because you thought coming along was doing me a favor." "That's Noda. I need you to leave," she murmured. Her voice was quiet but unbreakable. "Leave, and let me figure out what's real." Jonas stared at her, throat tight. He wanted to explain, to apologize, to undo every wrong turn, but the wall in her expression told him nothing he said now would reach her, so he nodded. "Okay." He walked out past the whispering guests, past Marcus who looked sick with guilt, past Aria's mother now basking in all the new attention from guests impressed by her sudden connection to J-Vale. He made it to his car, handed over the valet ticket, and drove off into the blur of city lights. He didn't go home. He couldn't. He parked outside Brew Pages, the cafe tilde copyright where everything had felt easy, simple, honest. Back when he had been just Jonas, and Aria had been simply herself. He stared at her name on his phone. He wanted to write something, anything, but she wouldn't read it. Not tonight. So he sat in the darkness, wondering if he'd already lost the only thing that had ever felt real. Back at the reception, Aria stood alone near the windows, champagne untouched. Clarissa had gone back to Marcus. Her mother floated among investors now eager to align themselves with the Sterling family. Aria watched them all and felt a quiet dread settle in her chest. Jonas had been right about the whispers, the sudden interest, the calculations behind every smile. It didn't make the pain any softer. She opened her messages, typed, deleted, typed again, deleted again. She didn't know where to begin. Her mother approached, face arranged into practiced empathy. "Sweetheart, a broken bar, are you all right?" Aria frowned at her. "When were you going to tell me you knew who he was?" "I didn't." "But you do now," Aria said. "And you're already working the room, already figuring out how to use it." Her mother stiffened. "That's not fair, isn't it?" Aria whispered. "You spent weeks telling me Jonas wasn't good enough. Now suddenly you act like he's the best thing that's ever happened to us." "I misjudged him," her mother said. "I didn't realize that he was rich." Aria cut in. Her mother's jaw tightened. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" Aria looked around at the watching crowd. "Everyone here is doing exactly what he feared. They don't care who he is. They care what he's worth." Her mother's voice softened. "Then why didn't he tell you?" Aria had no answer, and that hurt the most. She stepped out onto the terrace, shivering in the cold night air as she tried to untangle everything of Jonas's kindness, the secret he'd kept, the truth she couldn't escape. Her phone buzzed. A message from Clarissa. "Are you okay?" Aria typed back, "I don't know." Meanwhile, Jonas sat in his car, phone buzzing steadily with messages from unknown numbers, investors, opportunists, people hungry for access to J-Vale. He powered it off. Then he drove back to the estate. Guests were leaving, the celebration winding down. Jonas walked inside, no longer invisible, no longer a spectacle, just a man searching for the woman he'd hurt. He found her on the terrace, arms wrapped around herself. She didn't turn, but she spoke softly. "I thought you left." "I did," Jonas said, stopping a few feet away. "But I came back." Aria finally looked at him, eyes red, makeup smudged. "Why?" "Because you deserve the truth," he said quietly. "The whole truth." She didn't speak. She waited. Jonas took a breath. 12 years ago, I was a different man. I had money, influence, everything I thought mattered. And I had a wife who loved all of it. A broken bar." He spoke quietly, almost as if confessing to himself. His ex-wife had always thrived on attention, parties, influence, glamour. She adored every glittering distraction, and he had given her all of it because he assumed that was what love demanded. But everything shifted the moment their daughter was born. Suddenly, none of the noise mattered. He wanted stillness. He wanted presence. He wanted to be a father, not a walking vault. His gaze dropped. His wife never understood that change. She wanted more events, more status, more reach. And when he tried to step back, she simply stepped forward without him, using his name to open doors and his wealth to construct her own empire. He discovered she'd been making deals behind his back, promising things he never approved. Arya listened intently now, every word sinking into her. When he confronted his wife, she accused him of being selfish, said he owed her that life, said their daughter deserved the same glittering world. But when he looked at his child, all he saw was a future where she'd be valued for what she offered, not for who she was. So he walked away. He abandoned the name everyone recognized, moved to another city, kept investing but only from the shadows. He became J-Vale to escape being treated like an endless resource. And he raised his daughter somewhere peaceful, where no one knew their history. Arya's voice softened. Where is she now? Your wife, he answered calmly as she had remarried someone even wealthier, someone who wanted the same glossy world she did. Their daughter spent weekdays with her and weekends with him. Not perfect, but far healthier than before. Arya blinked back emotion. Why didn't you ever tell me this? He stepped closer, voice low. The first time he saw her walk into that quiet cafe copyright, she looked exhausted, like someone tired of being handled, managed, used. He recognized that feeling instantly. He didn't want to add complications to her life. He only wanted to be Jonas, the man who read books, drank terrible coffee, and listened. But Arya shook her head. You're not just Jonas, you're J-Vale. That's not a small thing to hide. He swallowed hard. He knew she was right. He should have told her, but he'd been terrified she'd treat him like everyone else did once they learned his real name. Arya turned away, hurt and thoughtful. The music drifting from the ballroom was soft and distant. When she finally spoke again, her voice trembled. The worst part wasn't the secret, it was that he'd been right. Right about her family, right about how they'd react, and right about how different everything would feel once the truth came out. Fear washed through him. So this is the end? She met his eyes. I didn't say that. Then she admitted something even more unsettling, as she wasn't sure if she was hurt because he lied, or because she suddenly realized how alike they were. Two people shrinking themselves just to avoid being used. She glanced toward the ballroom where her mother was probably strategizing, her sister sulking, and the guests whispering about J-Vale like he was a prize to win. That's my world, she whispered, and I hate it. But I hate that you didn't trust me more. Jonas exhaled slowly. What do you want me to do? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with a message from her mother, another reminder of exactly what she despised. Arya stared at it, then shut her phone off and walked toward the parking lot. He followed. When she turned to him, her voice was barely steady. Come with me. He didn't question where, he simply said yes. They drove in silence through the city, ending up outside the darkened cafe copyright where everything had begun. She stared at it for a long moment. This is where it all started. He remembered the first thing he ever told her, that the world was too loud, and she admitted he'd seemed like the only person who understood. She still believed that, even after everything. Jonas apologized, truly apologized for hiding the truth. Arya listened quietly and then said the one thing that mattered. She didn't care that he was J-Vale. She cared that he felt he had to hide it. That meant he hadn't believed she'd love him anyway. He reached for her hand. I was wrong. Yes, she whispered. You were. Her phone buzzed again, another message from her mother. Arya read it out loud, then calmly typed her reply. When Jonas asked what she wrote, she told him, unless her mother apologized publicly for how she treated him, Arya was done with the family's expectations and the legacy they kept trying to force on her. He stared at her, stunned. She told him she had to take a stand because she refused to be part of a world that treated people like transactions. Jonas asked what would happen if her mother refused. Arya's answer was simple. She would walk away from all of it, the same way he once had, and she meant it. He pulled her into his arms, and she held him tightly. For the first time in years, he let himself breathe. Arya promised she didn't want him hiding anymore. No secrets, no walls. She needed amnesty, even if it was uncomfortable. Jonas agreed, wholeheartedly. They decided to go to her place. His apartment would probably be swarmed by curious investors anyway. They drove through the softened night, the city no longer feeling quite as harsh. In Arya, Jonas saw a woman willing to choose him over the world she was raised in, and he realized something: maybe he didn't have to hide anymore, not with someone who saw every part of him and stayed. 2 weeks later, they sat together at their usual corner in Brew and Page's. Sunlight warming the quiet cafe told the copyright Aria's mother had apologized publicly at the wedding, awkwardly, but sincerely. Aria was willing to try rebuilding things, but on her own terms now. And finally, no one whispered about Jonas. No one cared who he was. They were just two people sharing coffee, books, and silence, exactly what they both needed. Jonas looked at Aria, remembering how she'd walked into his life searching for a moment of peace and somehow found him. He understood now she didn't love him despite his past. She loved him because of everything he'd survived, everything he'd become. She smiled at him. "What are you thinking about?" He smiled back. "That I'm really glad you forgot your charger that day.